Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 160 of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me here to talk about Resident Evil Degeneration is Devin.
I'm Claire Redfield, but you can call me Claire.
I didn't think at once what you might do for a quote for this movie. That
Well, my other
works.
one I had was much more of an asshole thing to say. It was, you might want to stick your ego up your ass. But I thought that'd be like, if this was someone's first episode, they'd be like, wow, this guy's really toxic that he has on. His co host is really, really toxic. I don't know why he puts up with
I'm
this
used
shit.
to it, folks. I'm used to it. But yes, this episode is all about the 2008 direct-to-video film that's only 96 minutes, which is nice. Resident Evil Degeneration, the first of three, technically four, animated Resident Evil movies. I say technically because the fourth one, which is, oh man, it's called like Something in Darkness, is a four-part miniseries on Netflix and not a movie, but I think we might do it at some point in the distant future, because like the other three animated movies, they actually take place in the game world. It's not that they're recreations. This movie takes place in between Resident Evil's 4 and 5, and why Leon has the same voice actor as the video game and the same outfit as the video game as well.
I wasn't sure if it was gonna be canon or if it was just gonna be like a little spin-off thing that they're like, hey, we have this IP, let's make a little video to DVD kind of thing. Resident Evil 4 was kind of popular. Let's cash that cow, so to
Yeah.
speak. But when you told me like, no, this is legit canon, and there's multiple. I did see the other movies on Amazon as well. So I'm like, okay, this is popular enough that they're like,
Yeah, yeah.
we're gonna make more.
Yeah,
Granted, when we
after
get into our thoughts, I'll say I definitely think this was on a cheaper budget, to a degree. It is
and there's
2008 though, so I
arguments
try
on,
to.
how much money you spend compared to your peers using your IP, and if you succeeded more than they did on making anything interesting. Yeah, Resident Evil Damnation, Resident Evil Vendetta, um, are also the other two movies in this. I guess you could say a trilogy, but they're just in the universe of the games. This takes,
hmm
Degeneration takes place between 4 and 5, Damnation between 5 and 6, and Vendetta after 6. I guess also before 7, but Leon is not in 7 or 8. Well, I assume he's not in 7 because he's not in 8, and I never heard about him in 7. I do
He
wonder
retires.
though. Yeah, I mean, he could honestly. I never played 6,
I
and I know
think
he's in it.
honestly, he's the kind of guy who's in a lot of crazy shit that I'd be like, this is my last rodeo. Like after 4, I think I'd be like, no.
After 2, I think I'd be like, no. Homie tries to go to work first day, and then they nuke
Literally
the
gets
city.
nuked.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder though if any of these movies are not canon anymore because maybe the remakes add in elements that then retcon these. Like,
I don't know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we both played the Resident Evil 2 remake, and I feel
Yeah,
like that could have fit with this,
yeah.
right?
Like, it could be one of those like, oh well, we didn't just say in the movie this, but it was there because we decided now it was there. But there's that easy thing. Also, like, it doesn't matter. Resident Evil's story is one of those that, like, this franchise is long running. It's from the 90s and it has a continuous story. There's not very many video games that keep up with releases that have a
Yeah.
continuous story to them. Very few, right? The Resident Evil is certainly one of them. And then whenever there's a new Resident Evil video game, or when anyone's ever talking about an old Resident Evil video game, I don't think anyone ever talks about the story or cares at all about the story.
You
They
just
like
gotta know
moments, they like the
Leon and then the
gameplay.
Redfields,
They
and it
don't
doesn't
care
really
about the
matter how
story.
they're connected.
I never see anyone talk about the story of Resident Evil. It's just fun to have it there
It's the
because the
vibes.
gameplay is what people really want. Now, I also like story in video games, and I haven't played all these Resident Evils. If I did, I would care about the story just because I would want to. Um, but yeah, so I don't think any if there is retcons or not or contradicting facts this movie provides, I don't think it matters. It's just fun that it was in there, and yeah. why don't we actually begin overall? Do we do spoiler-free stuff here, or does that not matter because this is from
It doesn't
2008?
matter.
Okay.
2008. You're
Tell me your
2000 and
thoughts.
late if you haven't seen this yet.
Yeah. We
So
were 13 when this movie came out.
yeah, we were just getting into ninth grade.
Yeah.
We did the DC trip. We did all that, and then at this point in 2008, in terms of Resident Evil, I probably only knew the movie.
Really?
No, that's not true. My dad had Resident Evil, the first one on PlayStation 1. Never mind.
Okay.
I take that
Okay.
back. But
I
for
had
me,
the
it was more
remake
the
on
movie.
GameCube. Yeah. What did you think about the movie?
Well, I guess we should start off by saying, in case here's your first episode of Sonic Movie Show, or maybe you've skipped a couple episodes here and there and you just watched the movie reviews, and maybe you should know this then. But not 2 episodes ago, but 2 movie episodes ago, we did a fantasy football-esque video game movie draft, and we did Ethan's first pick, which was the Tomb Raider movie from 2018. Most recent and only most recent one that there's going to be anytime soon. And then this was my first pick. He got to pick first, and I picked this movie. So I'll start with that. So I going in, I'm like, okay, it's my first pick. I got some expectations. They weren't high. Don't get me wrong. They weren't high. Most of the movies I picked, I didn't know any of them besides the Tomb Raider one from like trailers I saw. I've never heard of this movie until we
Really?
picked it. So I'm like, I was banking on Resident Evil. We've watched all the other live action Resident Evil movies. I was banking on that a little bit. And I have seen those clips of like, I think from the series, not from this movie, unfortunately,
Right.
but from the series where there's like some crazy gunfights and like
Just the most
stupid
insane-
action.
Yeah,
Stupid
yeah.
action anime shit. And with all that in mind, I came out feeling a little disappointed, to be honest. I was a little kind of bored by the end of
Really?
it. I feel like I was kind of just eh. And there's some cool moments in it, but there wasn't enough for me to be like, hey, I really liked this, or like I like what they were trying to do. I just felt like I feel like they could have done something better, or the things I did like, they didn't further expand on, whether it was like a location or a character. Also, I just feel like and we were talking about like Resident Evil. No one plays Resident Evil necessarily for the story, right? So all this movie is about the story and the lore, and I'm just like, man, I really just don't kind of care about some of these characters, whether they live or die. And there's some tropes in there that we have seen in every zombie movie that I was just like, really? You did the whole, oh no, they're bitten, I'm leaving my friend behind or family member behind, I can't. Bullshit.
The overeager
We've seen
military
that before.
asshole. The woman that goes to save the child and just holds them, which isn't really saving them, you know? The asshole elected official.
And also just the animation. I'm trying to give it a pass because it was 2008, and it's hard to remember what animation was like for like a smaller budget video game movie was back then in 2008. But it's just really hard to like watch this sometimes. I'm like, man, this looks like butt. Like I feel like
what I like to describe
look better at this
I like
point.
to describe the characters besides like the main like 3 or 4. Everyone else is a David Cage ass character.
That's a good way to describe it.
It's too uncanny for a video game, but if this was just a thing you watched, you know what I mean? It was yeah.
So yeah, it did feel like David Cage is a good way to describe it. Or even like Deadly Premonition levels of like just
there is charm and
in Deadly Premonition, but it's not in this. That's what I'm saying. It looks like it could be Deadly Premonition, but it's missing the charm. It's missing the like the
earnestness of it all.
Yeah,
like a desire to make something.
Yeah, so I guess overall I'm just kind of disappointed that but it's tough, you know, like first round pick. I'll say this, I'm just glad because originally on my draft board I had this movie as ranked 1, then Tomb Raider. I'm glad you went first because I would have been real upset if we started with that and then followed it up by Tomb Raider. I'll say that much.
Um, I will say this: I am higher. I think I'm higher on this movie. But I'm giving it a bit of a pass. Let me let's take a step back here, because remember, on the Sonic Movie Show, we've watched dozens of video game movies before, and um, many of them are bad, and many of them are eh. But because there's a couple really good ones, and because just this is what the genre is as a whole, we grade on a curve. Bad becomes it becomes okay, okay becomes
Yeah,
good, and good becomes great. You know what I mean? Even like the most like 6.5 or a 7 out of 10 film becomes great as a video game movie. Um, in addition to that curve that we grade on, there's also a sub curve for the Resident Evil movies,
that's true.
and
There is another curve.
this on that curve is S tier. On that small curve, this
you,
is S tier.
you
I am way
think?
more interested in this movie, and I will watch this 6 times as opposed to watch any of the other movies in the
Really?
Alice.
No
Yep,
way.
hundred
This is my
percent.
pick, and I'm disagreeing with
I
you.
now here's the thing. This is as I'm talking about the tiny Resident Evil curve. Now let's bring it back to a video game movie curve. I'm not gonna be throwing out my tier because we give them letter grade tiers at the end, and there's point values for it. We'll show you at the end there. I'm not gonna give my full decision on where that goes at the end or until the end. However, I think this movie actually does overall have that like, man, we really want to make something cool. And here's how I like to say it. They had to watch a lot of military SWAT teams, um, i- clear rooms, enter buildings, breach and clears, I guess what the term would be, get hostages and all that. Because as I'm watching Steve Blum and Laura Bailey's characters of Greg Glenn and Angela Miller um, clear like areas with Leon S. Kennedy, voiced by Paul Mercier, who voiced him in the video game, and as well a few afterwards, but I don't think he was the voice of him in 6, which is kind of sad. So something happened to him, maybe. But as I'm watching him clear all this stuff, like they like seeing that cool stuff. They could have easily half-assed that, and I feel like we probably saw half-assing that in the actual live-action movies. Here, it looked Hideo Kojima, Metal Gear Solid 2, enemy AI clearing the rooms as they attempt to find you hiding in your box in a corner. Like there is a I can see a desire to make something cool. Whether or not it reaches there is not necessarily the point on ambition, and I can see and appreciate that. We talk about the animation for a bit. This obviously does remind me a lot of Advent Children 2004. I don't know what the budgets are in either of these movies. I have a feeling Square put in more money. They had a film studio,
They made up a
remember?
faked actor
That was for the other one. That was for
for Advent Children, or not
uh
for Advent. Oh, I'm thinking of.
Spirits
I
Within.
got. I thought you were talking about or what
No,
you call it.
I'm talking
What's
about
it
Final
called?
Fantasy VII Spirits, or it's not Spirits Within. That's the other
No,
movie.
no, I switched it.
That's
We
the other
need. We
movie.
do need a Final Fantasy VII Spirits Within. That is something.
Oh my
Cloud
god.
and whatever her name is together fighting evil.
Um, actually, I need to close something real quick here, but that movie very clearly to me looks better in many places, but there's still aspects of this movie that do look good, and most of that is the environments. A lot of that is the kind of sets that you see. Some of the panning shots and the way the camera moves through some of these scenes are a bit weird, and when people move around the scenes, it doesn't look all that great. But there are some moments where I'm like, this doesn't necessarily look real, but this looks modern-ish enough, where I can appreciate that, which is similar to how Advent Children was in some degrees. Although this movie has more colors than Advent Children's, like 7 total colors it had.
7 grays.
Yeah, and a brown and a dark green. And a dark red for blood,
That's it.
Yeah, and a bright ass blue. there was a couple bright ass blues in that. I liked Leon, and I he very clearly is not the Leon from Resident Evil 4, where he says, "Where did everyone go? Bingo?" As not the Leon in this movie, unfortunately. but he is also not the like, I shouldn't be here. You gotta detach yourself. I'm just here for the mission. He's not totally that guy either. You can tell he's determined and broken, but he's not maybe not broken, or maybe he was broken before, but he's determined to get it done. But he's not a soulless hack. You know what I mean either. So there's stuff in here that I like, but it's kind of surrounded by a you just have to peel away this onion to get to like the or maybe not an onion. It's an artichoke because there's a heart in an artichoke. There's no heart in an onion. There's a heart in an artichoke. That's the good shit. You just gotta peel away all the nonsense first to get to that. I like this movie more than any of the other Resident Evil movies. I know that's probably weird to you.
That's a hot take. I think it's a hot take.
It's
For
sure
me.
it's a hot take.
I really like the first live action Resident Evil movie. I still like that one because maybe it's more of a nostalgia thing for me because I watched that one a lot growing up. So maybe that's part of the reason. But I don't know. Maybe I was just expecting something different out of this. Maybe I based it too much on just like the live action Resident Evil movies and also the clips I've seen of the gunfights and Leon.
There's a
or
little
whoever
bit of that in this movie.
But it's not enough. It's not enough
It's
to keep
not.
me
It's not.
interested.
It's not the
Unfortunately,
same. And granted, you haven't seen, and I assume you haven't seen because I haven't seen the entire scene of that, let alone the context around it, and if that's even most of the movie or just that one part, we don't know.
But I was banking on that.
There's a little bit of that.
That's the
Like,
tape I watched at the NFL Combine, and unfortunately, I may have been I watched a fake video.
there's a moment where Leon is standing. Leon gets knocked away from Angela by the G virus super mutant. By the way, Curtis Miller
Mm-hmm.
is Roger Craig Smith.
Yeah. I saw that on IMDb.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hell yes. Leon gets knocked away to another platform that begins to fall, and he is holding down the Assassin's Creed parkour button and holding the analog stick forward and perfectly going under, and he's vaulting, and he just and like all right, I would like to play that moment in a video game. You know, I want all those to be timed things, or not like a quick time events, but like, you know, circle is always a slide and X is always vault and stuff like that. You know, get through this. You know, that was cool. But I will say the overall story is not all that interesting.
I don't remember what happened. Like
I watched it like 3 hours ago, so I do.
I watched it 2 days ago. For me, like I think with the story, I just didn't get what was happening, or I feel like they mentioned it once, and maybe they not mumbled it, but like the way they said it was so quick that I just didn't pick up on it, and all of a sudden just they never mention it again. It's that kind of thing where I'm like, I wish they mentioned it one more time, or at least at the end they feel like they wrapped it up of like what happened, but there was a lot of like, we can't do that. Why? Oh, because they mentioned it one time and I missed it, or like I guess I wasn't paying attention.
Because the context of Resident Evil 4 and some of 2 and 3.
And I don't really remember Resident Evil 4. I didn't play all of Resident Evil 4. I played Resident Evil 4. I didn't play all of Resident Evil 4, so I don't really remember exactly what happens, except that the president's daughter is saved and you go on a jet ski or whatever the fuck, and then get out of there, get off the island. But
get out of there.
But like I just didn't get the whole like politics. The politics thing was a little bit too much in the beginning, where it was just like the senator doesn't want this because why? And then like they didn't really talk about it too much, except that you're supposed to hate him or maybe disagree with him. And then it kind of all basically in the end is that he wanted it. He was trying to work with the terrorist group, right, or something to that effect.
That's what
I'm saying. Is that
at the end when Leon comes up, he basically sums it up like this guy was not really involved. He really is just a politician that wants to make as much money as possible. He's slimy in that regard, and he's a loser.
Oh, I'm thinking of the different guy. I'm thinking of the first guy we see in the airport. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that guy was a guy trying to sell, obviously. The opening of the movie with all the different news footages, and of course, this is when I'm like, oh, of course, it's not going to be lip synced to English. So I'm still trying to adjust to that as we hop to different people back and back, and like I can't really fault the movie for that, but
Yeah,
like it was a
no.
little bit tough for me. And then like, yeah, some of the stuff mentioned in that you have to remember later on of like you tried to plummet our stocks and then it's all your fault and then that's why there's no cure. I never again, I've played a good amount of the first Resident Evil. I think I have popped the Resident Evil Zero disc into my GameCube. Played the 2 remake, never touched 3. Played a good chunk of 4. I never beat it either. Never played 5, never played 6, never played 7, never played any of the spin-offs. And beat 8. I beat 8 on PS5. So like that's where I'm at in Resident Evil. So like I don't know the Will Pharmaceutical, whatever the other not Umbrella Corp that this movie had.
Yeah, Umbrella Corp
Um
went under is what they basically say after
yeah.
Raccoon City, which makes to me it's a little bit more of a realistic thing than what we've seen in the Resident Evil live action movies where like nope, they still have just another base somewhere else, or nope,
They are the
they
Illuminati essentially, you know.
yeah. I like this a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more realistic, and it goes back, I guess, to one thing I did like about this movie was one thing I did take away from it. Like I said, there's a lot of like little politics stuff they mentioned. I just maybe I wasn't paying attention well enough or something. I don't know, just missed it, uh, or maybe it was hard to remember because all the different company names, whatever. Was at least that like one thing I got out of like Resident Evil 2, at least the OG Resident Evils, is that they're anti-corporation. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like at least they kept with that with this, where they're like, nope, these corporations are trying to
Yep.
make money.
Claire does not trust these, new people and stuff like that. And Leon
Doesn't trust
is
the
yeah.
politicians involved with them, or trying to make sure that they don't create a vaccine or do create a vaccine. So at the end, I was just like, whatever. I guess it doesn't freaking matter what the plot was. I guess at least the message is there, so I'll give them credit for that one. But I
Message
was just
was
kind
you
of
buy the
confused.
upcoming Resident Evil game. I feel like that's really the
Yeah,
message. You're gonna buy
but
Resident Evil 5.
you know what I
Capcom's
mean,
best selling game ever
where
until I
it's
think Monster Hunter.
where it's just like I don't know. Also, I just think of like the pandemic that we actually experienced. I'm like, damn, this is interesting from that
Yep.
perspective.
Yep.
But yeah, I struggled a little bit with like following what was happening and why. Like I actually forgot why Leon even went into the airport in the first place. But I'm like, I think it's because to save
The senator.
the senator.
Yeah, I guess. One thing that is very thin, um, that as it's happening, I'm like, bro, what are you guys doing? It's after they save the senator, and like they're still like holed up around in that area, and like, oh yeah, and we have the vaccines, and oh wait, you mean if we just waited 12 hours, everything would have been fine? Yeah, you don't really know that those people could have died, but Angela's talking about Greg, I think was his name, voiced by Steve Blum, um, greatest anime voice actor I feel like I've ever heard. Um, so there's that thing going on, and then like Leon is connecting with Angela a bit, and then an explosion happens, and we go outside, and like and all of the people that we've ever seen are like, "What's going on?" The truck that with had the vaccines exploded. Sure, okay, I'm fine with that. Whatever. Maybe you didn't have the. I would have them in ultra security, but sure, whatever. Um, it's the terrorist thing that gets brought back into play here. It's the terrorists, and then they just start talking, and I'm like thinking like you don't know if you're still safe. You don't know if you're safe or not. Number one, and number two,
Yeah.
like why are we not going now? Why are we not trying to find the terrorists that just caused this? We're instantly talking about their demands and shit, and like who are the
Maybe
terrorists? We
maybe
didn't
there
see
was
this
some
terrorist.
issue with the translation and they just had to roll with what they got kind of thing. That could be it too. Maybe there was more explanation.
Not even
Maybe there
that. I
was
mean, like we don't
cutscenes, but I don't
see
know.
them attempt
Yeah,
to
it's just
find the terrorists that just
that
blew up
was
some
one of the
trucks.
bigger parts of the movie where I'm like, what? Like why do they have vaccines on a truck? Why were they blown up? Why does it also seem like that was the only vaccines they've had? Like makes it like
Yeah,
there's like I get like maybe they're not there right this second, but I mean more of just like they made it seem like that was the only vaccines that existed
yeah, because
was on
that
that
was
truck.
they can make more, and they still have the data because remember that's a plot device for later. Is that I destroyed all the data except for what's here, in my
Yeah.
briefcase as I talk to,
And then
some
they all
dictator.
separate, and like uh Claire and whatever the scientist guy was are like, let's go on a date, kinda. And then like they go to his work and
Yeah.
then just hang out there. There's just a lot of reason like why are we doing this besides um them trying to find I forgot her name, the brother there, Curtis.
Curtis, yeah.
Um like that one I guess kind of made sense. Okay, we need to go find him because he was seen here and now he's not
Well,
here. I don't know, just a lot of
Frederick
like
Stein, I think, is Frederick. I'm just gonna call him Frederick. That the scientist dude, his reasoning for taking Claire is, I think, so that he can have her around for when, because I got the impression Curtis was not trying to blow the building up, but like force them to make a cure that he could take or something like that, and he got used by the Frederick person into being a test experiment, like through happenstance. Like he wasn't planning on it. Like the bomb and all that was planted by the Frederick dude. I'm pretty sure that's what I got, but like it was a lot of um ancillary statements and not like a. I just needed one statement for these to root themselves to confirm what I was thinking it was trying to tell
yeah.
me through Roger Craig Smith's voice. Um, so that's why he brings her there, but she's not suspicious at all. Um, she doesn't really have any. I thought there was going to be a secret motive of why she was going. Like her and Leon talked, and he's like, "I'm gonna go, find Curtis at his house or something like that." And she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get any. I'm gonna lie to him and pretend I'm doing." Like there wasn't any of that. She just went with him. Obviously, she wanted
Yeah.
to snoop, but like she seemed more curious in what he might have to say rather than trying to root out the truth. Um, so they do that, but like I think one issue I have with the movie, I'm starting to come down on this movie. Stop it, Ethan. This is the best Resident Evil movie. Our characters often split up, but they're not treated equally. Leon and Claire were the two stars of Resident Evil 2. Did you see that like flashback in their old outfits from the original Resident Evil
Yeah,
2
and then that
running
was
down the
for that
street?
was a moment for me where I'm like, wait, is this not the first movie that we're supposed to be watching? But then I'm like, oh,
Oh,
it's probably just cutting back to the game, and we're supposed to just roll with it. But like
yeah.
for a couple times, it kept showing. I'm like, man, like the way they're showing it makes it look like it was another movie that like we
I
didn't
got that
watch.
instantly as this is PS2 Resident Evil 2 because that's what their outfits were in that game. Claire had that very bright red like jacket thing. Um, but yeah, they're not treated that when they split up. They're not treated equally. When Claire and Leon are supposed to be more equally leading characters. I understand Resident Evil 4 exists and like that overshadows Claire quite a bit. I get that. Um, but like when Leon and Angela go to Curtis's house, they just stand there. And the whole time, Claire has way more interesting things story wise happening over at the Will place, the other pharmacy place, pharmaceutical company's place. And then when they meet back up at the place and they split up and Leon immediately finds Claire, Claire just sits in a computer room the whole time and does nothing
Yeah,
until the end when she has uh, a couple things to do. She's like, "What would?" But it's just what would Leon do? It's turn off everything. You know what I mean? And then realize that it's being recorded. Not that you could delete that recording or anything like that because it's used. Although Leon does take it at the end. Um, so like it's not good at the movie did not succeed at splitting into multiple planes of action. A cool action movie would have her have an issue because she's safe the entire time up in that computer room. There is things knocking on the door and she needs to
or she fights
improvise a
some guy.
weapon.
Maybe
Something
she
needs
could
to
have
happen
fought
up
the
there.
scientist guy or something. Like yeah, instead of just
Something needs to
waiting up
happen
there.
with Angela and Leon before they meet up. Like we need to have things going on because it just seems like we meet up and then we split up and then we're fine and nothing really bad happens except the one bad guy, which is obviously the one bad guy. There's and then okay, yeah, then the whole place is going to destroy itself to save itself or something like that. Okay, so there's that element to it. But like that whole thing I feel like didn't work out as much. What I saw was very cool though, and like that's what's making me want to just pile drive through this movie, you know what I mean, and be like, I only want to take the things I like, you know what I mean, and I'll leave the baggage behind because I'm just happy it's in the Resident Evil universe. um has characters that do cool actions, and like that's all I want from Resident Evil. So it's easy for me to ignore the stuff I was just complaining about, but you can't ignore them completely. One thing I do want to mention real quick. I find it laughable, the forced tension, but like romantic tension between Leon and Angela when they just
I think I love you.
they don't even say that shit. But there was a moment where I'm like, are they gonna
Yeah, I
kiss?
know,
What the
but
hell's going on?
I didn't like that. I see Leon as like a kind of lone wolf guy because he does too much crazy shit for his job that wouldn't be worth it to have a family or have any love interests. You know what I mean? Just like he's
He
going to
even
life or death
I don't think so.
situations way too often. That I'm like, it just I feel like he wouldn't be a guy who's like, yeah, I'm gonna get a family going.
Right,
Or like,
right,
I want to have a girlfriend back home who's gonna worry sick about me because I'm going on these islands with like people who wear bags over their heads and have chainsaws,
right.
run by some cultist dude. You know what
And
I
I
mean?
could have
Like,
sworn one of them cut my head off, but then I don't remember that anymore because
yeah,
everyone dies to that guy. He even says to her, and I think maybe Greg, at the beginning, it's just going to be the two of you coming with me. You don't want to watch any of your friends die, do you? You don't want to like that. That type of line doesn't really that type of line comes from someone that does not connect with anyone because they don't
yeah,
want to lose anyone. Now,
yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and attack the character of Leon S. Kennedy, the only cool cop in video games. You know what I mean? I'm not here to do that, at all. But I'm just saying, like he just stands.
he does
He
he
just
does just kind
stands.
he's very stiff in this, unfortunately.
Like
Everyone's kind of stiff, but he's like extra stiff
what
compared
he
to other characters.
says is one thing. How he portrayed is another entirely. That I'm like,
Do you want to
man,
watch
I
your friends
just
die?
yeah. Like I feel like, man, did someone kill a puppy in front of you yesterday? Like, what about the
Yeah.
bingo line? Say the bingo line again for me.
Yeah,
Just
he's not
walk
very
in there,
comedic.
you know?
He is confident when he's doing like actual action stuff. Like he comes across as confident that he's always one step ahead. I mean, at one point he's literally hanging on like a fallen walkway that's like barely hanging on. And his legs curled around it, and he's somehow holding I'm forgetting her name. I'm forgetting everyone's names.
Angela and then a
Angela,
monster.
and then the monster, aka Curtis. That's a lot of weight he's carrying, is what I'm saying, and he just does it so confidently. And then
He's got good
uh,
glutes.
I will say, at least I'll give him credit, by the way, for that scene where like she's like, "You gotta let me go," and I'm like, "Oh my god, they're doing this too." That like he's like, "Nah, I'm just
Because I've
gonna
never heard of
shoot
this
him."
character before.
Yeah, he's just like, "I'm just gonna shoot him," and then
If
and I'm
we
like, this whole
wanted,
time, this monster's gotten shot so many times in the last 15 minutes,
not by
but all
Leon.
it took was that one
Not by
shot
Leon.
to the head, and that's what makes him. He's like, "Oh shit, I can't hold on anymore."
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, all he didn't need to
But
kill it. He just needed to make it let go,
you know
right?
what I mean? Just enough to like when he was getting shot with like 40 freaking machine guns and stuff earlier. But going back to Leon, yeah, I just did not like the love, and I didn't need that. It would have
When
been
they
totally
kissed
fine.
in the
Felt so
water, I was like, "What?" I literally said, "Wait, what?" Is he trying? He's trying to give her air. No, he's not. It's
he's
so
like, I'm gonna
weird.
use this opportunity to get my smooch in because we might die in
Yeah,
30
yeah, yeah.
seconds here. But yeah, I just didn't like. I don't need Leon to have a love interest. Maybe
Yeah.
that's me being
I don't know if she's in any of the other games or anything. I feel like her story, like,
maybe that's me being
it's
too
her
clingy.
story that has a loop.
But
So, you know,
yeah, I think I'm being too clingy with Leon. But I don't
you don't
see
want
him
to share him.
having. I don't want to share him. He's
Yeah,
mine.
he's
Um,
mine.
but yeah, I don't know. I like the connection with the characters. Um, whatever happened to that little girl? I don't even remember. Where'd she go?
The little girl who calls her aunt as just aunt. That's what it says in IMDb as well. Aunt is that character's name.
No
To me,
name.
that feels like that's a localization thing, like error where like, and there's an honorific that she says. You know what I mean? That
Mm.
when translated over is just like relative name, and that's not how we talk in English. And I mean, they're speaking English. Obviously, they're from India. It looks like, just, I don't know, or maybe Pakistan, someplace that is not America, right? So like whatever native language that they might speak over there might also have honorifics, but still they're speaking English. So like it's weird, and I feel like that was a mistake. When I feel like there might have been, when it comes to stuff like that, when there's a cultural thing like an honorific, how you address someone in another language, when that gets localized to a language that doesn't have it, the best thing to do is to take that stuff with you and you meld them a little bit together. You mainly speak in English, but you use those honorifics still, and you just have to have the audience respect,
Or they just
understand the
speak in
fact that
whatever
they're going to
language
do
they
it.
want them to speak in, and then just subtitle it.
Or, well,
Honestly, I wish
that
I
too.
watched this movie in subtitles
I
too.
did.
That
I have my subtitles on. I have them on every single
I
time I
meant
watch
more
this movie.
like I wish it was in Japanese, and I watched
Oh,
it. I watched it English subtitles, to be honest.
yeah, but then
And
you
it's nothing
wouldn't.
against the voice actors. It's more of just like because the attempts at lip syncing just weren't good. And
Roger
I grew up
Clark
watching
Smith is in
Godzilla
this movie.
movies that had a English dub, and I don't know. I was just not with the how ugly some of the animations looked with the not the lip syncing, the dubbing being good. It just made it was really hard for me to maybe it's half the reason I don't remember the plot because I was just so focused on like, wow, their mouths are moving a lot or not
Yeah.
enough.
Well, they're
But
moving a lot, and also like, the cadence in which the language. I don't speak Japanese, so just understand that that's where I'm
you
coming
don't.
from. I'm not an expert. I don't even speak the language, but I do know that speed and cadence in which a thing might be said in Japanese is at a different speed and tempo than an English speaking person speaks English. And when you have to dub over, if
Oh
you
yeah, I'm
try
not saying it's
to,
not hard,
yeah,
but it's just
what I mean, to finish the thought, when you try to dub over almost verbatim, you have to say a lot in the shortish amount of time. So that's where the localization thing comes, where you need to edit the script to take the points and purposes and ideas of what was said in the original script and make it work in the new language, in English, for what we watched, or any other language, right? And I noticed that in this movie, where I'm like, Leon's talking really fast right here because he needs to match the lip sync with what he's saying. So they need to make, because they're not editing the lip sync at all. Like, even though there were parts where I'm like, some of this is really close to what the lips are making the sounds of. Still uncanny because it's not perfect, but like some of it's close and some of it's way off.
you know what they should have done though. They could have just done the whole like I don't know who did it first, but it was I saw a lot in SpongeBob growing up. And I see it in comedy movies and whatever. They should have just did they cut the mouth of the voice actor and just put it over them.
Yeah.
So
So
they
there's a
just say
live
whatever they need to
action
say.
Laura Bailey mouth over Angela at any point.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
what you want?
That would have been fantastic.
That would have been
Then it'd be my
so
favorite Resident
weird.
Evil movie. I'd be like, that's bold. I like this.
Listen. I don't know if what's his name? Paul Mercier can quite perfectly do Leon's scowl. I don't know. I don't even know if I can do really either. Maybe I don't want him to take away from that.
No, I just
That's
want
all
it to
I'm
be
saying.
like just whatever they look like in the booth. I just want it
And you
straight.
know what? If they're gonna pull that from SpongeBob, you know what else I want them to pull from SpongeBob? When any of them swear, I want to hear a dolphin. I
Yes.
want to hear a dolphin. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think you definitely looked at more of the positives that maybe I forgot. But like, I don't know, man. I had a
I
hard
have
time
another
getting through this
positive.
movie, and luckily this movie was short. Because if it was anything longer, I would have been like,
Well,
damn,
yeah, yeah.
damn.
I have one final positive I want to
Okay.
give off. This movie begins with I would say a classic setup, a normal everyday occurrence in a public place, an airport. We're waiting for the aunt to bring the car around. I'm waiting for my, but I'm just gonna grab a taxi. Some of the stuff, and then the zombie outbreak happens, and sure, it's formulaic. The you stop right there. What? You gotta move. He's still alive. And then okay, we're locked in this building, and we gotta save these people. We're stuck in a small building where no one else is a human except for us, and everyone's a zombie, and then we move away from that pretty quickly. That solves itself. Now, maybe you would have
Yeah, that's
wanted
one of the
a
reasons.
different thing it went to, but it wasn't that the whole time. And when I'm watching that, I'm like, okay, it's just gonna be this, but at least I got Leon and Claire in here. You know what I mean? So
See, I was
that's
the
my
opposite.
positive is it went into something else.
See, the opposite was I don't mind it going to something else, but I feel like it went too quickly for me. I think an airport is a great place to do a zombie movie. I'm thinking of like Dawn of the Dead, that Zack Snyder made, and also based off the original one, where it takes place in a mall. They're trapped in a mall. They don't know how wide scale the zombies are. They don't know. There's a lot of questions, but they know that they have each other. How do they deal with the politics of each other, the relationships with each other? What supplies do they have? What do they need? Do we leave? Do we stay? Will there be help? There won't be any help. Not saying they had to do all those things, but I feel like they could have pulled from that. And those are some good zombie tropes. I hate the zombie tropes of like, and I'm going to pick on Dawn of the Dead that I just was saying is great, where like, oh, I'm bit, I'm going to hide it from someone, or I'm bit, I want to leave my family or friend behind. But I feel like there's some cool parts of zombie movies that I think are always good, which is just like that, like you saying, where we're kind of cornered. We're stuck in this environment that we're familiar with, but what are we going to do now that all of a sudden everyone around you is zombie is and is dangerous? Like, what are your options? And then when the plane crashed, I thought that was really cool, and I really
That was
liked
neat.
that.
It was
I really
scary.
liked when the plane door opened and all the zombies fell out, and the way the camera panned down, it panned above, then over behind the back of Claire and whoever was with her, and I'm like, oh, this would have been great to start a video game off. Like
Oh,
this
and
is
then
when you
now you're
start
playing.
playing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was like, damn, this would have been great to be like, okay, you're Claire. There's your first introductions of fighting zombies. You have your maybe find a hand pistol, whatever.
I feel like
And
The
that's your
Last of Us
first.
Part 2 and Final Fantasy VII Remake did that, where the cutscenes always then the camera just then pans behind Ellie,
Yeah,
pans behind Cloud, and oh, you're playing now. Oh, that's cool.
yeah, but then they kind of cut away from that. But I don't know. I just wanted to be in the airport longer, and I did like when the SWAT came in with Leon, even though I didn't get why they were doing it. But I was like, cool, whatever. And they had the cocky dude, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know. There's just like something missing that I feel like they could have done so much more about, like in the airport. I really like that setting. That's when I think my biggest thing is like I like the setting, I like the location, and they just quickly were like, nope, military got it under control. They know what they're doing. And then then we go to the laboratory. I'm sick of seeing the
I can
laboratories.
understand. I can understand
So
that.
I guess for me, I'm just like I don't mind them changing direction. I just wish they would have stayed on it long. I wish it was like the first half of the movie is just them trying to get out of the airport. Maybe they don't know there's any help, but the whole setup, I guess, with the vaccines and the terrorists wouldn't have made much sense if they were staying in the airport the entire time. But I don't know. I just think it'd be a really cool set piece to do something, um, maybe a little bit longer, like Dawn of the Dead, but maybe so you can pick on those, like I said, zombie tropes. Some of them, not all of them. Maybe not some of the ones that are overdone, but just some of those elements that make a cool zombie movie every time. Which is, like I said, you're in a big environment, but it really feels like you're in a small environment because there's so many people. There's so many people at an airport. You don't know how many people could be infected. Are there any
Yeah.
survivors? All those kind of questions that you can easily like build off of and like make a plot out of. So I don't know. That's my biggest gripe with this movie. Is I'm like,
I gotcha.
damn, the airport could have been cool, and I feel like it
Very
kind of
interesting that
just
we have like two different views on that. But I understand what you're saying. I understand that. I get it. Couple more things from me, and I think I said that was my last one before, but I have a couple more things. Um, I think I don't know if this is accurate or even fair to say, but I think there's a lot of Japanese writers that think that a single senator is like really high up there and important. Like I
He
don't I
definitely
don't
was
know
like
if
a
I see this happening in real life where like this much energy is spent and then and like I don't know. I feel like they would have packed him up and said, "You go home right now. We're taking you home." That
but I'm gonna throw you I think the closest modern present example, Ted Cruz. Not saying he's exactly the same as this guy, but in terms of the level of like, I guess, political power or political energy that he has representing Texas, like he's on the news. You know what I mean? If he says something stupid, which he often does, he gets on the news, right? Or if he's trying to
yeah.
push a bill, he gets on the news. But do you know like a random senator in Missouri or a random senator in some other state often? No, but you know
That's
who Ted
fair.
Cruz is. How many people know who Ted Cruz is are not from Texas? So I feel like that's the kind of guy they're going for. Maybe I'm misjudging
Maybe.
that.
I don't know.
But I do agree to a certain degree where it's like, yeah, I do also
They
think that
treat him
maybe they
like he's the
think,
president. At
yeah,
least
yeah.
for this.
I did like their president, by the way, was super like. I remember that like in the beginning when they were showing those little cut scenes, and they're like, I forgot what the question was, but he basically said like no, and then walked off.
And then they immediately say that he resigned.
Yeah.
Which I
Like that
assume
would
he
never
must
happen.
have been the
That's the most
president.
unrealistic thing.
He must have been the president before the Resident Evil 4 president. Because it's the president's daughter. Um, because I don't think
I will
Leon would
not
want
do
to work for
that.
that guy.
He resigned the next day.
Yeah. Other little thing. There really isn't much like Claire has personality, and you can assume a history between herself and Leon. And Leon very much like he positions himself, he holds himself in a way where you can kind of tell what he's like. And Angela, it's really hard to really grasp what like I said earlier that her story has a loop, but it's really just that she gets closure about her brother, and that's it. She kind of we forget about Greg and what that meant for her. We get the classic fist balled up, close up shot from
Arthur
her.
meme, yeah.
We get the Arthur meme from her. And Arthur's older than Resident Evil Degeneration, so yes, it is an Arthur meme. Um, Not that that was ever like in contention,
They were ahead of the
whether it
time.
was or
They knew.
not.
They knew.
But
They put that in
yeah,
there.
yeah. What I would have liked to see was a bit more. This happens in a bunch of movies. Things that are not the plot, not maybe they're location based or whatever, where you get someone that just says something that is not important, but it adds to their personality. They ask a question that is not important, but it adds to the personalities and it characterizes these characters a bit more and gives them a reason to stick together besides a practical need of we're the only humans in the biohazard. You know what I mean? I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. We do weirdly enough get I feel like more of that from the fucking douchebag senator because they want us to know he's a douchebag so that we think he's in on the grift when he really is just a greedy stockholder using his
He's
political
on a
power to make
different
things
grift.
happen.
He's on a different
Exactly.
grift.
He's
Not
not
the
on the
grift we
end the
thought he was
world
on.
purpose grift. You know what I mean? He's on a
He
well, I
wants
might
to
as well
see he
profit on
wants to
it.
see the he wants to live in his grift rather than be possibly dead, because that's
Right.
I always think it's
He,
funny when we see that in movies or video games too. We're like, my grift is I want to end the world because humans deserve it. I'm like, that's like fascism on just cocaine. Where it's just like even I deserve to die. It's like okay,
yeah.
whatever, dude.
Yeah. Well, and that's also what the movies, the live action movies were like. Like,
Yeah.
bro, you want to have 6 people left. Shut up. Get out of here. You're so dumb. Um so yeah, there wasn't like it was events and it wasn't much story, but it was fun events, man, and it was a fun
I mean,
set
I
of
liked this. I
characters.
like I said, I liked the airport setting. Wish it was longer. I do like the gore, and I love the violence. But like in
You
the
get your
ending,
violence one day a week.
the ending boss fight was okay. Like I was like I did like that ending where like she's like, oh, you gotta let go, and he's like, no. I think that was funny. I don't know if that was like their intent, but it was funny. Um, but just like I don't know, there's like a lot of things missing in this movie to keep me like kept me interested. I just felt like I was like, why do I care about this dialogue? What are they saying? What? Why are we talking? Why are we going here? Okay, we're standing next to the building or the house that's on fire because Curtis left it. They're still sitting there.
The
Like what's
photograph just being at the feet of them wherever they are is kind of
yeah.
like, at least show me a scene where she rushes to the fire to see if she can grab anything, and then she sees the photograph, not Neil's 200 feet away and it's there. You know
And then
what I
it falls
mean?
again during the ending
But we
boss
don't
fight, I
see it
guess you can call
fall.
it.
It's just there. He
Yeah.
picks it up, and then she's like, "What? Where?" As if it was just like under a strap, on her harness. Like, which I
Yeah,
don't remember.
yeah.
Maybe it was there. I
It
wasn't
fell out
paying
of
attention.
her wallet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The very barely burned photograph. Some of those I'm like, well, but again, maybe it comes down to budget. Like what I said about like she rushes and searches, in the fire. Maybe that'd be expensive. Don't
Through
do
the
it.
fire and the flames.
Exactly. Exactly. Sure. Um. Yeah, and I don't really have any context after. I haven't played Resident Evil 5 because clearly this movie takes place between 4 and 5, and something has to come out of this. But like at the end of it all, it just seems like we've completely wrapped everything up. Sure, there was a guy that the scientist dude was trying to sell something to. It wasn't the transaction wasn't done. Because there was the briefcase of the stuff, and and Leon takes it. And by the way, I think it's funny. So like, Angela has the guy. She's cuffing him, and then the other cops they come up and they're like holding it down. And obviously, everyone there is on the same team. But I did find it funny that Leon just throughout this, everyone's focused on this guy, and Leon just takes that briefcase and just slowly walks off camera. I'm like, this guy just stole that. You know what I mean? Wait, where'd the
That's
briefcase
evidence.
to
Yeah.
go?
That's
Yeah, we
evidence.
who had eyes on it. Even though obviously they're all on the same team, but I thought that was funny. And then we get weirdly rocking music for the credits. I don't know what that was.
This is the
That's it.
one. Well, I won't say many times like I know who it is, but as someone who's into like metal and rock in that kind of time period, I didn't know who this was. So I
Gotcha.
can't give
Gotcha.
you a history for that. So
Yeah. Couple little tiny things. The Capcom logo had obnoxious audio because it starts playing
yeah.
the Ghosts and Goblins music, but like, and it's very short, and I'm like, you can throw this all out. Sony Pictures of Japan though is the animation studio that made it. Um, and no post credits. Oh shoot, there was something else. Oh yeah, Shinji Mikami. I don't think had any involvement in this movie. It had a different director, a different writer. Shinji Mikami is listed as writer for the video games
At the end,
in
it said
relation to this
it
movie.
actually said secretly directed by Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah, yeah.
That would if I saw his name in the goddamn credits, I would have laughed.
And then I would have cried. If,
It was
Uwe
Uwe
Boll
Boll.
was in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Oh
Shit.
man. Shoot. Oh, I had a joke. I was like, I almost forgot. I'm glad we brought him up. The joke I was gonna say during the airport stuff when the plane crashes that this movie has a better 9/11 opening than Postal
Um.
with the plane crashing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a joke I had, and I should have wrote it down. I'm glad I said it though. It was we had a moment there. Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and rank this movie or give it a rating?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
have over here the official Sonic Movie Show season 4 video game movies list. We watched Tomb Raider. Now we just watched Resident Evil Degeneration. Next on the list is going to be Tekken Blood Vengeance, and so on and so forth. You can see all these movies. Hey, what's this? There's a counter pick from Ethan, a counter pick from Devin. To remind folks, we're fighting. Devin and I are fighting. This guy and I are fighting.
We have huge beef.
We have a disagreement going on. In part, it's mostly him, but in part, it's over these movies, right? So we had a list of 18 movies. Um, and I picked 6. Devin picked 6. There were 6 to throw away. The 6 best movies we wanted to make, pick the best movies, ones we think are the best, and we get points. My movie was first, Tomb Raider. We gave it an A rank, which you can see over here gives us 5 points, and then gives us a I have to pull up the Rotten Tomatoes for it.
I
You can
have it.
do
I
that.
have it. I haven't
Oh,
looked
thank
at
you.
it yet, but I do have it, so we're ready.
I forgot about that last time too. I have 5.55 points because as a 55, Tomb Raider had a 55 on Rotten Tomatoes. 5.55. That's my points. So we're gonna give Resident Evil Degeneration a tier ranking here. We need to come to
Yeah.
an agreement on. It's gonna be weird that I'm gonna want to give Devin more points than I think he wants to take, but we're being fair here. So we fight over
Yeah.
these, but we reviewed other movies in the past. As an example of what some of these tiers are, let's kind of scroll on over here and look at, okay, S rank, Detective Pikachu, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Those are good 2 S ranks. What's an A rank? Mortal Kombat's 2021 film, the first Sonic the Hedgehog, Street Fighter. Those are A ranks, as well as Uncharted. A good B. I think we described this as a decent movie that has something going on, but it's just not quite there on execution or just the awesomeness. I don't know.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
includes DOA, Dead or Alive, the original Mortal Kombat movie, and the original Resident Evil movie. A C rank are ones that are like has something, but it doesn't have quite too much going on. This includes Advent Children, the original Tomb Raider movie, and the second Tomb Raider movie, 4 Resident Evil movies, and Silent Hill Revelation. A D is like, what's going on with this movie? It's just not bad. It's not terrible. There's something there. This includes Assassin's Creed, which was boring. Spirits Within, which was boring. 2 Resident Evil movies, which were boring.
Yeah.
For E, we have, this is just the worst, which includes Blood Rain, Monster Hunter, and The King of Fighters. And F is the special racist spot where, like, why did you make this movie? More things
Why did we
can
watch
fit
it?
that criteria.
Why did we
This
even
was
watch
unexpectedly offensive, in an actual offensiveness where
it? Yeah.
it was not right to make that movie. And that's Postal. So that's kind of where our headspace is at when we come to these movies here on our current list, and we get to Resident Evil Degeneration. I will say this right now. I'm willing to give this movie a B. What are you thinking?
I say a C just because, like with what you said, I'm taking into account with what you said. I think originally I was going to say a D, but I think with taking what you say, I'm going to say a C just because there's some cool stuff in it. And there's some things I didn't like, but like I said, I was just kind of bored, man. I was kind of bored throughout. And C movies, it's tough. D movies are kind of boring, like you mentioned. Then C movies can be boring, but also have some cool parts in it. And I feel like that's kind of what describes this movie. For me, a B's got to have like some memorable quotes. I have 3. I've come in episodes when I have like 10, and I'm like, man, I could pick anything. But like, I don't know. There's like really, I don't like some of the set pieces after the airport. Couldn't really care for the laboratory. Leon was kind of disappointing, kind of stiff. Didn't really care about the other characters. Didn't want Leon to, be in a relationship because I'm clingy. Animation just doesn't really age well. I know we gotta give it some. We have to compare it to what the time frame was, but it's 2023. We also can look at it from and be like, does this age well? Because if with that logic,
some similar ones do. I think Advent Children ages better, and that's older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we've watched other movies before this movie came out that look a lot better and weren't maybe trying to look good either, if that makes sense. I don't know. There's just more things that are telling me that this is closer to a C or a D rather than a B. I don't know. B's got to be like higher up there for me. Because I think we put the original Resident Evil on a B.
I think so.
The first one.
I said it. And
that makes sense for me. But I like that one a lot more than this one. I find that one a lot more interesting or nostalgic, and Has some cool elements in it. It's all one um, cat food specific set
Has that one
piece.
cat food?
Like the mic cut out on it for a little bit, but I don't know. I just vibe checks telling me like it's a D or C. But if you're
Interesting.
saying B, and originally I was kind of feeling a D, I say we just meet in the middle and go with C. Unless
I
you're
could.
really dead set being on a B.
Here's the thing. This is your movie. I think if there is to be a tiebreaker, it should line with you. But I just really wanted to really. I liked this movie. I had fun watching this movie. I did. There were parts of it where I'm like, okay, 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 but I wasn't bored. Although I did while watching look up the IMDb to see like who is this? Do I recognize? Is that Roger Craig Smith? Oh, it is. Stuff like that. So I guess maybe I'm not being super fair. Um, I am just happy that this movie exists. I'm happy that there are two other, I guess, somewhat sequels to it. In the sense that they're part of the video games. After just six just mediocre live action Resident Evil movies, this is not above and beyond on a different tier, like high, like not tier in terms of this, but like a different level, so to speak. But I feel like this is worth it more than the other live action ones in terms of existing. Um, but I thinking about the definitions again more and meeting in the middle. I think C probably does make the best fit for it. Um, we always kind of talk when we talk about movies of like, would I ever watch this again? And the answer is probably going to be no, because I'm assuming that maybe the other ones are going to be better. And I'm only going to watch one again. So maybe it's going to be, one of those. Because seeing some stills from, I think, Vendetta, that looks very good. Just the visual, nature of it all looks pretty good, that being, I don't know, post 2010. I mean, this one's 2008, but you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, let's give it a C then, I guess. It being a C rank means that you gain 3 points plus what is the Rotten Tomato score? The
And we're doing
user,
the audience score, right?
yeah, audience,
Um
not user, audience.
because when we added this, we're like, what if we run into a tiebreaker and all that? Or like, this would be kind of a fun way to like be like, when you're drafting, be like, okay, maybe we won't like this movie, but maybe I can get some bonus points because maybe the audience will really like it, or vice versa.
Right.
We really like the Street Fighter movie. I can guarantee you the audience score is not very good on it, but we really like that movie because it has a charm that you couldn't replicate. But this movie, Resident Evil Degeneration, has a 57%. So I got a
Wow.
0.5. So if
3.57
you
points.
ignore our rankings, this movie has about the same audience score than Tomb Raider.
Which is a little bit wild because I do think Tomb Raider is a better movie than this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But maybe again, maybe it was just a bunch of people being like, finally, a Resident Evil movie that's actually Resident Evil. Perhaps that's where that comes from. And just fanboying and fangirling and fanning. Like, oh, I like
I will
this
say
game.
the
Oh, I
cover
like the
for
movie.
this movie is good though. I do
Really?
like the red flames or whatever's going on. Then I see like there's like a blue a blue like section where it's just the zombies. I'm like, that's cool, like the fire and the kind of cold
Nice,
dead
nice,
zombies.
nice, nice.
But yeah, 57%, 10,000 plus ratings.
I lead by 1.92 points
I
so
know, but see,
far.
but like that seems like a big gap. But when you think of like, we don't know what honestly, after this movie, I have no idea what we're gonna get. I feel like we kind of both of us had a general understanding of what Tomb Raider was probably gonna be. After this, I really feel like it's a crapshoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like some of these are going to be forgettable, and like at best they might be Resident Evil Degeneration. Because next up on our list, is
I don't
Tekken Blood
remember.
Vengeance,
Okay.
and I have a feeling that it might be Resident Evil Degeneration levels of interest. It's canon with the games, which is going to be cool for me because I enjoy the Tekken games. So I'm interested as hell. Um, and I would love to be surprised and be like, holy shit, I like this more than Resident Evil Degeneration, which I liked. The phrase I say is quite a bit. I liked this movie quite a bit. you know? So that's what we're watching next. And hey, we might as well say this now. Unless anything changes, that's probably going to be what next episode is going to be too. Because as maybe you're not one of these schlubs out there that only watches our video game movie reviews, and maybe you're a fan that watches everything that we do. You know that we do other things, besides just these. So some episodes are going to be movie news, Sonic news, Sonic movie news,
Sonic nudes.
Sonic nudes news.
They leaked.
So, but next episode, unless anything changes, if the Earth shatters and Microsoft lays off another 10,000 people, next episode is going to be Tekken Blood Vengeance. So episode 161, Tekken Blood Vengeance. I don't know where you can find it, but at one point or another, I researched and saw that.
What is our rule
available.
if we can't, like, let's say like one of us drafted one, and it's not on like any of the streaming services, and you can't find it on websites.
Here's the thing.
Do you just take the L? Do we just take
We can find them on websites. I'll tell you this right now. We can find them on websites. Archivists,
I'm just saying,
save
what if we
everything.
get a Chronicles of Diesel scenario where we legitimately couldn't find what was it, a War Horse or whatever the freaking movie was called,
and The Ropes.
Yeah,
I have a feeling
it's in some Netflix
video
vault
game movies
somewhere.
are archived better than documentaries.
Oh yeah, probably.
Low budget documentaries that a Fast and Furious producer produced. That's just my assumption. But yeah, no, we can find all of these, even if cause I have a feeling that Oni Chambara, the movie Vortex, and Corpse Party might not be on any services, so we might have to look ahead of time to see if where they are, if we need to acquire them from a nice place that wants to sell it to us.
We need to seize the movies of production. Never mind.
Seize the means of the movies. We're going to see you and seize you next time on another episode of the Sonic Movie Show. So why don't you hit like, subscribe, and share on our YouTube at Sonic Movie Show, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram at Sonic Movie Show. We're also obviously on podcast places. You're probably already listening to us on one of these places. But hey, check out the YouTube version. We are at a video.
That is the preferred director's vision.
Exactly,
is the YouTube
version. Exactly. You don't get to see all the cool art. You don't get to see, every episode I have new stuff in the background, and every episode Devin has a new set of polygons behind him in the background.
Yeah, they're slightly moved, but they are different.
You're not gonna know.
You're not gonna
know unless you watch. So please, and then comment about this movie. Hey, did you like Resident Evil Degeneration? Be honest. Not that matters if you're not. I guess just say whatever you want. Just be nice. And then go on Twitter and let us know there if you are excited about Tekken Blood Vengeance. And to be clear here, this is a movie titled Tekken Blood Vengeance and not the Tekken Netflix series that just came out, the mini series, which I think is Blood in the name or Vengeance in the name, one of the two.
Vengeance Blood.
This is Tekken Blood Vengeance, which I know came included with Tekken Hybrid, the PlayStation 3 collection of some things.
So when did this one come out?
This was like 2012.
Okay.
Tekken Blood Vengeance was also on the 3DS port of a Tekken game, so you could watch it in 240p and 3DS. I might see if I can find. No, it's next week. I'm not going to be able to find a copy of Tekken 3D Prime. That's going to be like $50 for that game. I'm not going to buy it. I will rent the movie instead. But hey, maybe I'll report back. Because remember, I watched Spirits Within on my PSP. So, because I bought that on UMD. Remember, I bought that on. There's so many things I want to collect. I want to collect steelbooks on every movie we review on the show. I want to collect UMDs on every movie that's possible that we review on this show.
Yeah, those are gonna be.
I want Riddick on UMD.
Those are gonna be. You can sell those for like rations in 2070 when the world's ended. They're gonna be like, you got any UMBs? You'll be like, oh, I got plenty.
Yeah. I got Chronicles of Riddick. I got The Pacifier. I have Pitch Black. I have one of the good Resident Evil movies. Degeneration.
He's like, okay, that at least gives you 3 rations.
Exactly. We're gonna see you next time. I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. He's on Twitter at CursonaFun. We'll see you next time. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.
We'll see who cancels who.